My name is Jack Mandeville, and this is Jacked History. This is Jonathan. He's a 300-pound Seychelles giant tortoise from the Aldabra giant tortoise species. He lives thousands of miles away from his native Seychelles on the remote British island of Saint Helena, almost 1,200 miles west of mainland Africa, who also once housed another transplant by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte during his 1815 exile. But one could argue that Jonathan is the island's most famous occupant ever. Jonathan doesn't just live on the property of the current governor of Saint Helena, but in his lifetime, Jonathan has outlasted 31 governors of Saint Helena, because Jonathan is 193 years old, having been hatched in 1832, almost 2 years before Saint Helena even became an official colony of the British Empire. In his life, he has outlived 7 British monarchs, going all the way back to King William IV, who was the last British king from the House of Hanover. And I'll be honest with you, judging by pictures of the current one, I think Jonathan might have a shot of outliving 8 of them. His existence alone is helping scientists learn more about his species. For years, nobody had a good gauge of how long these tortoises lived because record keeping was dog shit and these things would outlive their handlers. Now that better records are kept and there's a chronological record of Jonathan's life, we have a better understanding of these beautiful little bastards. Today's episode is not just about Jonathan the tortoise, but about the world and lifespan he's lived in. Let's do what we do often on this show and go back a bit in time for some background. On the other side of the African continent, about 3,000 miles straight shot from west to east from Saint Helena, is the island of Seychelles. And like we've talked about on previous episodes about Norse and Polynesian seafaring, Seychelles was completely uninhabited by human beings when it was officially discovered by the Portuguese in 1503, by Vasco da Gama of all people, a true goat of Renaissance-era sea exploration and a guy who probably deserves his own episode. Although it should be noted, relating to my episode about ancient Polynesians, there's a lot of evidence that Austronesian peoples could have discovered it years earlier and then dipped out. Basically, what happened from there was that the island exchanged hands between the Portuguese, French, and even some pirates until it officially came under control of the British in 1814. Because I wrote 1914 and I would have said that shit because I'm a dumb teleprompter monkey. It was on that island that Jonathan was born in what people estimate to be 1832. Born, hatched, you get it. We don't know 100% for sure. It could have been a little after or even quite a bit before. It was in 1882, around the age of 50 and fully developed, that Johnny Boy was brought to Saint Helena, where he has called home ever since. Like I said, Saint Helena is on the opposite side of continental Africa, and, like Seychelles, was discovered uninhabited by the Portuguese in the early 1500s, and ended up in the hands of the British in the 1600s because of a guy by the name of Oliver Cromwell, who we already did an episode about. Anywho, over the years, Jonathan has become so much of a celebrity on the island that his image graces currency. A king and a queen have made it a point to pay a visit to him when he was already over 100 years old. And of course, Jonathan has outlived both of them. Speaking of that, it was right around his 100th birthday in the 1930s that he officially got his name by the then governor of Saint Helena, who he has also outlived. I guess before that they just called him Tortoise? Or maybe Turtle. Even though a tortoise and a turtle are two different things, which I get. There was a duck that lived in the pool for like a year and none of us even bothered giving her a name. We just called her Pool Duck. Back on track. In recent years, Jonathan's age has worn on him a bit. He's blind and has lost all sense of smell, though it should be mentioned that he still has impeccable hearing. And most importantly, he's pampered. He gets bathed regularly, and he's fed like a king that he will probably outlive. All right, in honor of Jonathan's incredibly long and ongoing life, I want to really hammer home how long he's been on this planet by doing a spoken word performance of the world in the time frame of Jonathan's life.
Hold up, give me a second. I got a tip for you. If you're feeling kind of hungry, go to grillyourassoff.com and pleasure your tummy. That's it.
In 1832, the year that Jonathan was born, the Kingdom of Britain enacted the Great Reform. Just 1 year later, in 1833, Britain decided to abolish the practice of slavery. Jump across the ocean to America we go. In 1836, Texas gained independence from Mexico. This is going to be fun. Let's try. Back to Britain, where so many call home, in 1837, Queen Victoria ascended the throne. Flash to 1844. Let's change the mode. A guy named Samuel invented Morse code. In 1848, the US and Mexico was at war, which gave the US more land to explore. That same year, Europe started burning because of this book written by this German. The next decade is here. It's 1854, and Japan opens trade to this American Commodore. 61 to 65 was anything but a bore when the United States engaged in civil war. Just 2 years later, the Canadians were feeling kind of funky, so in 1867, they became their own country. It's 1868 and the samurai are done when Emperor Meiji creates the Restoration. In 1876, it was a time to mourn when this flamboyant officer died at Little Big Horn. That same year, you could always talk to home because Alexander Bell invented the phone. In 1882, when the Brits invaded Egypt on purpose, the island of Helena got a 50-year-old tortoise. Just 3 years later, society raised the bar when a smart frickin' German invented the car. In 1895, Japan was growing bigger, so they invaded China and gave them the finger. But peace would come in 1896 when the world first held the modern Olympics. In 1898, the US was about to get bigger when they took on Spain in the Pacific and American theater. It's 1901. Queen Victoria dies. Her son takes over, but Jonathan's still alive. Things are about to change in 1903 when 2 Ohio boys take a flight near the sea. Japan keeps growing, but instead of China this time, they go to war with Russia in 1905. Just 9 years later, the world is about to burn when this Austrian prince is killed by this Bosnian Serb. World War I was a shit show. Europe would lose some leaders. Russians became Soviets and the Japanese kept getting bigger. World War I is finally over. The coast seems clear. Psych! The Spanish flu is here. By the 1920s, the world was in an economic dash, but things got crazy when Wall Street crashed. It's the 1930s. Could things get crazier? Let's sum up the decade before I get lazier. There was a new man in Germany. The Spanish Civil War was a crime. The Italians wanted Africa, and Japan invaded China a second time. But the good news is, in that same decade, on the island of Saint Helena, they gave that tortoise a name. Are these coherent to you?
Yes.
39 to 45, the world became rocky, but it came to an end with the bomb in Nagasaki. The 50s were here. Television became king. There was a war in Korea, and England got a queen. Speaking of the queen, she was young and new. And just like Victoria, Jonathan would outlive her too. The 60s were crazy. Counterculture would boom. We lost King and Kennedy, but we landed on the moon. In the 70s, technology would grow. The computer became a thing, and disco was the show. In 1983, it was a sight to see. A baby was born who became the host of Jacked History. Chernobyl disaster, fall of the Berlin Wall, Tiananmen Square. I can't keep up with it all. The Soviets are gone. Apartheid ends. We all watched the soap opera of OJ and Friends. Ruby Ridge and Waco, it was all alarming. It ended with the moment of the Oklahoma bombing. Ireland and Britain having final talks. In America, Columbine popped off. It's 2001, the second millennium. We survived Y2K, but the towers are gone. Afghanistan, Iraq, another economic crash. MySpace, Facebook, what a time to be alive. A black guy is president? Bitcoin has arrived. An Arab revolution in 2010, but we also sent more troops to Afghanistan. A global-wide pandemic. We had to stay inside while Russia invaded Ukraine and there was the Israeli-Palestine ride. But no matter what happened, some people never lost their purpose. It was the people of Saint Helena who had Jonathan the Tortoise. If you like this show, please subscribe and like, and share with your friends or I'll commit suicide.